Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody who's here with us live. To everybody who's out on the stream, thank you for taking some time to be here with us. For those of you who don't know me, also thank you, first of all, Adorama and Seth and Teresa for having me. This is indeed my first live shoot presentation. I may be a little nervous, but not too nervous, but I'm very excited to be here. Oh, hello. Cool. So my name is Charles Chessler. I'm a New York City-based portrait and headshot photographer. I'm late to the game. I started making my full-time living doing what I love, which was this when I was 57 years old. I'm the poster child for never, ever giving up on your dreams. Started out life as an actor, gave it up for many reasons. And I love what I do. I'm floating up here with energy and yeah, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Today's presentation and shoot is, if you're an advanced shooter, you might find it a little boring, maybe not. I'm going to be going over the basics. And it is indeed about one light that you can carry. So I came on the subway like this downtown, and this is how I'm going to be going home. And we're not going to be using hair lights, kicker lights, backlights and stuff like that, but we can get a really nice professional image using the most basic gear. So I'm going to be setting everything up. I'm going to tell you what I use, how I travel, all of that. There are a lot of choices. I'm a Westcott shooter. When they first introduced the FJ400 back at Photo Plus years ago, they actually lent me a pre-production one, and it hit the great price point for me. And the light quality and the color consistency, all of that stuff. So I've dug into Westcott for all of these years. So with no further ado, I'm going to start setting up. Because I'm not a polished presenter, I'm going to try and make sure I talk and do at the same time, which is an amazing talent. My people, by the way, out there, if you want to see one of the best at it, so Seth Miranda here, follow him, Last Ex-Witness. He is one of the most knowledgeable people.
This is your demo. Stop shilling. Come on, let's go.
All right, so here we go.
I want my money's worth. Let's go, Charles.
So
come on.
I'm going to unpack some stuff. All right. So this is my think tank, Airport Advantage XT, and I've got my camera and I got my strobe and batteries and stuff in there, a light stand. I have a light stand in here. I've got my modifier, just using one modifier, a 43-inch bounce umbrella with some diffusion so you can see what you can do with that one piece. I was going to bring a beauty dish switch to show some other stuff with a grid, but I kind of timed out when I was trying it. So it's like, this is going to fill an hour, especially the way I like to talk. So this is my favorite bag. It's a speed top. I'm a think tank guy. I use it for my daily carry. It carries all the stuff like my coffee and things like that. So I'm just going to pop some stuff back here. I'm going to unpack some stuff and we're going to get started getting some stuff going. So, and if there are questions, I will try to take them if we get to the point. For those of you who are in the audience, if we get to the end and haven't answered a question, I'll be able to stay as long as they want. For those of you who are online, if we don't get to your question, I will try to answer when I get home or over the next few days. And I'm going to try and keep moving while I'm talking. So in here, I have a 43-inch white umbrella. I've got a diffusion panel that's going to soften the light. Just pop this down here. Then I've got this flash point. It's a reflector holder. And what I like about it is there's a ball head so it can rotate up and down so you can lift it up, put it on the side, all kinds of stuff like that. And this, by the way, I'm going to show the difference. I used to just use this Manfrotto reverse stand, which you can use under controlled environment to hold your strobe. But I wanted something a little bit stronger, but still portable. I'm going to be using this to hold the reflector to bounce light in a little bit later. But I found my way to this Manfrotto stand and all the numbers and the technical stuff. It's like it's a 1004 BAC. This is, for me, the absolute best balance of size, portability, and solidness that I've ever used. So this has become my main for my key light.
And they click together. If you get multiples, they snap together.
You can get 3 of them.
You do have a question of why you're choosing an umbrella today over a softbox.
The reason I'm choosing the question is why I'm choosing an umbrella over a softbox is because I wanted to really appeal to people who are just starting out to get the least expensive, simplest thing that you can carry. So umbrellas you can get super, super cheap, whether it's shoot through or you're bouncing the umbrella, and I should keep moving while I'm answering the question. And softboxes tend to get a little bit more expensive. You might have more control. I was going to bring a beauty dish with a grid, and you can really control the spill of the light really well with that. But I wanted to keep this as simple as basic, especially to appeal. I'd like to inspire people who are out there or here who have never tried this to go ahead and try. Because life is short, and if you've been thinking about doing it, but you're scared of doing it, you can get in for a pretty reasonable price. So that's a long answer for that. So this is what makes the portability. So for having a backdrop that's portable, this is a Westcott X-Drop Pro. It's it's lightweight, but a very stable stand. And then they have these fabric backdrops. And I have a 5x7 with me, which is absolutely fine and all you need for doing headshots. You can do this for corporate stuff. You can do this for actors. You can do it for people's LinkedIn. And let's see if I can show it in the bag like that. Nice and easy to carry. So I'm out of shape. I'm 63 years old and I can carry this. So just about anybody can. I really, really believe that. I used to be in shape, so I know of what I speak. So there's a base and the extender arms, and these also will hold 8x8 in their widest setup and 8x13, pretty large setup. So if you've got a group, you'll be able to do that with some ease. So I'm gonna start actually walking through the setup of the backdrop. And I'm gonna be curious how much time it takes me to get this set up while I'm chatting with you guys. And we're gonna move this out of the way. We're now over here. So in the 5x7 position, there are two lengths of the legs. You just use one of them for the 5x7. You would use the second one if you're doing an 8x8 or 8x13. So you roll this bad boy out like this. And by the way, I am not smooth and polished. It takes me time to do stuff. And when I'm doing a shoot for a client, whether it's corporate work, I make sure that I'm there like an hour before. And if I can, I have an assistant to help me. And I'll do a test shot so that the first, especially with corporate clients, first person who comes in, if I have like 2 minutes with them, I want it to be spot on, the exposure, the whole thing, right? All the setup like that. So let me turn myself around like this.
They say, wow, you don't look 63. What's your secret?
So, you know, I love what I do and I'm inspired. And again, life is short and I really, there we go. Really highly recommend not waiting and doing something you love within the context of whatever your limitations are in your life immediately. So as you can see, this is the position that this would be, and it has quite a lot of depth. What I love about this, though, is that you can narrow that depth. So we have the constraints of a pretty tight space here, and so this is very helpful in condensing that. Also, because we're not using a C-stand, because I can't carry one, we'll have some constraints because we're using the Manfrotto stand as well, but it's entirely doable. So this, basically, you can bring this in like this, and then on the back one, you just do that, and I kind of get it as close as I can to match what would be a good angle, and I tighten that down, and then I'll readjust that as I need. But now, this is the depth, right? Next, you've got the 3 extender arms. The short one goes in the middle. There are 2 positions on the side, and that hook comes forward. So This locks into the 5x7 position. There's a little button, you just press this, it spreads out to the 8x8, and those bottom legs would be extended, and you need a fair amount of space to do that. But it makes working with this stuff easy. These fabric backdrops, they come in a million different colors, or maybe 15. And I have yet to steam mine, but they're pretty wrinkle-free, and they're advertised as being wrinkle-free. And this is the start with the tag on there. But what I love about this is, so I can carry 3 of these this size in that bag to a shoot, so I can offer something neutral like this, but I can also bring red or green or whatever somebody's, if working with an actor or a model, whatever their colors are, to complement that, whether it's skin tone or they have an idea about what kind of wardrobe they want to be wearing. They want to be saying something. So here we go, locked into the hooks. We're gonna, we won't knock you over. Now, basically, there are 2 other extensions on here. So for this, with the 5x7, what you do is the top one, you go all the way to the end. On this, if you're using the 8x8, they're going to both be extended all the way, right? So there we go. And then the bottom one, you just kind of get a feel. They're not going to go all the way, but after you've done it for a few times, you get pretty close. And again, if I'm doing this for a shoot, I'm getting there early and I'm getting this set up before. I'm not setting up and talking to the client like I'm talking to you guys. And then I take a look and I say, I want to extend that a little bit farther on that side just to even it out. So one of the best bits of advice that I ever heard or received, somebody asked, I was at a presentation 15 years ago. It was a famous photographer. And they said, what is, if you had one piece of advice to give? And he said, slow down. So if you're doing a professional shoot, arrive early, be prepared, slow down. You can troubleshoot anything that might go wrong or not. So for me, this is pretty good. It's nice and taut, and it should photograph pretty evenly. I might want to run this through a dryer a little bit. That will help if there's any crinkles and stuff like that. So that's our backdrop. The next thing I'm going to do is set up our key light. So here's our Manfrotto stand. And there we go. So extend this all the way. And I just want to see, so I'm going to have everything straight down the middle. Since this is set up over here, I'm going to slide this a little bit this way. So Nicole, could you come sit over here so I don't block you? And I'm going to see where I want the stand. I'm probably going to have it over here. So I like to get everything centered, so I'm going to slide this all the way there. And I do this by eye, but I want everything right down the middle. And this as far back as I can. And that looks pretty good to me. And I just take a look like that, and I take a look like that. And we'll see if we adjust this afterwards or not. This is going to be our stand to support our reflector to bounce light in underneath. So I'm just going to open this out for now. And I just remembered when I set it up earlier, there are little things like I want the arms, the levers, on the left side here. And we're going to put this just on the side for a second. Over here. And this is going to be our reflector holder, the flash point. I'm going to put this over here for now as well. And actually my favorite part, so this is our modifier. And I mark everything. I use little bags and stuff like that. So I have them in tubs, and then I can grab what I need. And when I go home, because I live in a New York City apartment, I can put stuff away, and it's neat. It's like running any business, a restaurant. They mop, they put the chairs up. When I get home for a shoot, I put everything back where it belongs. Generally, the idea is that the larger the light source is and the closer it is to your subject, the softer it's going to be, right? So this is 43 inches. It's okay. Normally, I'd be using a 53-inch umbrella if I were using an umbrella, or a 7-foot umbrella. Setting up an umbrella, for years, this is my favorite thing in the world. I used to open the umbrella and then put the diffusion panel over it, right? Move it around and stuff. And I would do that in the street. I shoot down in Cortlandt Alley a lot with a 36-inch softbox. But another guy you should follow, who's got amazing content, changed my life about a year ago, Gavin Hoey. And he showed this, and I don't know where he saw it, but it makes so much sense when you think about it. Don't step on your umbrella and break it, because you might not be able to use it. So you just come through the top here, welcome. And then you just let the umbrella slide. How about that? Right? Worth the price of admission. You guys paid a lot.
You guys can clap for that. You can make them feel good. You can clap for it. You can clap.
So this is the kind of thing that tickles me pink and that keeps me feeling like a 9-year-old. And because, you know, if you want to work for money, it's serious. You're in exchange for money for a service you're doing, but we also want to have fun and we want to play, because that's a big part of photography. So if you can get your thing down, what you do, and know that you can deliver with clients and then be present and play in the moment with them, especially if I'm working with an actor or an actress, you're golden. It's a little different if I'm working with the CEO of a medical company or something like that, but you can also find how to connect with them. That's really the most important thing after all the technical stuff. So why any modifier? Why an umbrella? Why a softbox? So basically with light, as I said earlier, and as I'm sure all of you know, the larger the light source and the closer it is in relation to your subject, the softer and more pleasing it's going to be. So what's our challenge as traveling photographers is having a light source big enough, but being able to walk around with it. So here, as mentioned, so this is my think tank bag. We can see that. Yeah, I don't want to go all the way over. And these things are amazing. They're bulletproof. I've taken this to Italy. I work with a wildlife conservation nonprofit in South Africa. I go to South Africa with this thing. It's amazing. And so this, and there are smaller light sources. So this is the FJ400. Right, from Westcott. So this light source, and if you want to use hard light and would just build the regular reflector, this light source is this big. So the beauty of working with an umbrella or a softbox is that with portability, this is going to become this big. So we're getting softer light, right? Any questions about that? No? Good. Now, another little tip. So your light, when you're putting it on your light stand, wherever you're hanging it off of, you want the weight to be over one leg. Much less likely to tip over like that. If I do it like that, more of a chance that it will tip over like that, right? These are all the basics. So this has a tilter bracket built in, so I can loosen it. I know that I'm going to be kicking that back at an angle a little bit, and then I'm going to tighten that up. These are great, these handles, and I'm sure many other manufacturers, you can press it, you can move that so that you can work with it a little bit better. Next step, loosen up the bracket where it attaches to the light stand. And there we go, making sure it's lined up. And I actually didn't get this the way. So just because visually, and it's also aligns perfectly, I want it over the Manfrotto logo, and that's balanced evenly. It probably won't make a difference in the image, but it's just paying attention to little things like that gives me a sense of control. I do a lot of outdoor work, and I'll hold a reflector underneath where the natural light where it's good, and I'll usually have an assistant holding a reflector, and I'll take 4 or 5 pops, and then we'll redo it. I'll take the reflector back and reposition it after we take a look at those images, even if it's going to be the exact same space, to reconnect me with the subject and have that sense of control for the next 5 or 20 images that we shoot. So I'm going to tip this back a little bit. Not an exact science. I'm going to loosen up the hole where the umbrella goes. I'm going to put my $3 old man glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do this with my left hand, which is a little scary for me since I'm a righty. And we're going to slide this in. And one of the nice things, so I'm going to take off the protector part here. That's the official term, the protector part. And I'm going to rotate this. So the bulb bulges out and it's round, so it really fills your softbox really, really nicely. It's one of the things I love about this, and I'm sure other manufacturers have the same thing. We want to make sure it goes in far enough so we're not losing anything. So that, by eye and experience, is about right. And then, because this could be a little dangerous, forgive my back, I got this stuff online, cut it, put that there so nobody pokes an eye out, right? I'm going to be the only one near here theoretically, but good to do. So next, we're going to raise this up, and I'm going to have this, even though it's only 43 inches, it will wrap around enough to give nice light to my subject, Nicole. So I'm going to put this, I usually put it just where it's sort of, just my head is just at the bottom, like that. And again, I want to reiterate what I'm doing. I see as a, oh, let me get back. Reignite this here. Went to sleep. There we go. Reignite this. Detecting camera. Pop this over here. So like any education, take what you learn and make it your own. My idea with this today is just to give a foundational thing so you can do what you want. Take what you like, throw out what you don't. Come see Peter Hurley next week. Take what you like from him, combine them or not, whatever works for you, right? Because it's your shoot. So I'm going to realign myself again. This looks pretty good to me. I'm actually going to move this a bit. I'm going to move this back. I'm going to make use of as much of the space as I can. And we're good, huh? No, actually it's fine. And we're going to see how tight we need to be, or how tight we are. Like that. And that's good. And I'm going to turn this on, which is always a good idea if you're using something to turn it on. And I'm just looking at the position from my client's point of view. And there we go. And I am. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to get my trigger.
You guys are ready? Basically, you all right? No questions? All right.
So here's the beauty of being a photographer these days. We have a trigger which talks to the light. It's radio, so don't need wires. You don't need it to be in view. It can be around the corner. I'm going to put my old man glasses on. And for those of you who are just beginning, so you want to make sure that your channel is the same on your trigger. This is for any brand. And then your group, right? The beauty of these things is key light is going to be in group A. If I had a background light, that might be group B. If I had some hair lights, those might be group C, and you can change those all independently from your camera. I'm going to do a little test pop. So it's working. And the reason I do a test pop before putting it on my camera is because I want to make sure, so this connection is good. If I have a problem when I put it on the camera, I know there's something in terms of the connection needs to be clean, needs to be jiggled a little bit. So it's good to discern that. And let me put, there's a modeling light, so you can get an idea. What you see is what you get, what's going on. And, huh? Kill the lights? Yeah, we can kill the lights. Let me make sure. Oh, there you go. We are on. So everybody you've ever seen do a presentation does this first step. Does anybody know what the first step is? I can't speak up.
Blind the sensor.
Blind the sensor. Well, not, I wouldn't say it like that. We're going to get a dark image, right? I don't want any of the ambient light in the space affecting. I want to control the light on my subject with my light, my reflector, or my lights, plural. So I'm going to tell you what my settings generally are. I may have to adjust them for the light, ambient light that's in here. I start with aperture because of the depth of field that I want. So I have a sweet spot and it's 7.1. It might seem a little random, but you don't want to shoot at f2, f1.4 necessarily when you're doing studio work. If I'm outside, my favorite lens ever is, I'm a Canon shooter. And all the brands are good, by the way. I just started with Canon. It was the first camera I got, so I stayed with it 15 years ago. Forget what I was going to say, but that's okay. Oh, so I start with the aperture because I want to control the depth of field. So I'm starting with 7.1. Now I'm going to say something that a lot of people will disagree with, but it works for me. So I have an R5, and any camera in the last 5 years, the ISO quality is excellent. I put ISO 400. I don't start at ISO 100. Why, Charles, do you do that? I do that because it will help my strobe recycle quicker, and I can use a lower power on the strobe so that it lasts longer and I get that quicker recycling. Then the last thing, which could be the first thing as well, is I'm at 1/160th. You want to be under your maximum sync speed. It could be 200, 1/250th. I can break that down about the curtains and how that works. Maybe I'll do that at the end if there's time or afterwards. So I'm going to take a first test shot, and what I want is a dark screen. And I've never worked with these lights, so I'm going to just focus out here. Where am I? There. And then go towards where I'm looking. And are we coming in here? Yeah. So I have a dark screen. You can see on the histogram, it's all the way to the left. I might look at my image, and then I might look at the info on the back, and I'm sorry you can't see mine, and it's all the way back. And I have room to wiggle. So let's get that out like that. Is there a question? Oh, the monitors are out? No, it's a black screen because I just shot a black screen. Yeah. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, now that we know that I've got a clean image without any light filtering into it, and if you watch actually also Daniel Norton, who's great, and he's also technically, and these guys are way beyond me.
He's all right.
He's okay. But he will, in Capture One, make sure that he's like a stop and a half or 2 stops below. So if he has to bring anything up, he knows that he has room for shadows to come up, and it won't affect the ambient light, won't enter into it. And it's a great kind of thing to know. So I'm going to now pop that on. That tells me that it's working. And at this point, yeah, I think we're good. And good, half an hour to get to shooting, not too bad. So I'm going to have Nicole step in. And Nicole, I met a few weeks ago. I have the pleasure of doing headshots for one of the best acting schools twice a year, Atlantic Acting School. And Nicole is a recent graduate. So I photographed her and I said, hey, would you like to come model? And she was like, what? No, she was like, okay. So I'm going to ask Nicole to face me and then step back a little bit right there. Now, when we get our exposure, there's the subject to light distance. And once we lock that in and get a good exposure, we want to keep that. One of the limitations about working in a small space is about being able to pull your model back off of the background if you're using one light in order to darken the background. All things being equal, if you have that distance set together, you can then darken by moving back and forth. But there's plenty of space to do what we need to do here. So I'm going to take a test pop. So I do not use a light meter. I'm not advocating to not do it. Somebody who's another great photographer, you should follow Ian Spanier, is a buddy of mine, and he's king of the light meter, and he's great. And Ian, one day I will start using a light meter. So I'm going to guesstimate an exposure. And I'm going to put, just from experience, I'm going to put my power level at 6. With the Westcott stuff, it's 1 to 9. 9 is full power, 8 is half power, 7 is quarter power, and down and down and down from there. General stuff you should know, every stop, you either double or half the amount of light. I'm not going to get into all of that today. So, hi, Nicole.
Hi.
So then you need to connect, right? How delightful is Nicole? So I'm going to photograph Nicole like this right now, and I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I would work with an actor or actress once we get a decent exposure. So Nicole, that's great. Just good. Bring your chin a little down for me. Beautiful. How you doing? So let's see. Okay. So I have a little bit of a vignette. This is automatically coming in. How does that look to you guys up there? Does it looks okay? So I guesstimated correct. I'm at a power level of 6 with Nicole. That's great. And it looks better up there than it does on my monitor. Oh. Those are calibrated. That's cool. So you'll notice, though, we have some shadow under the chin. The placement I managed to get just right. We have a nice catch light up at the top, and we're getting a nice spread of light. So we've done that. So for me, this, you could remove the vignette, but this is absolutely usable for a headshot for somebody. We're going to add a couple other things, though, to switch it up. For actors and actresses, you have to think that a casting director or an agent is looking at a screen with 20 photos. And what we really want to highlight, we want to get some emotion in the eyes. We want the eyes to be well lit and there be connection so that somebody sees that and they pop out from the other 19 people on the screen. So the next thing I'm going to do, and Nicole is actually a natural, and I'm glad she's kind of standing up tall like this. But the next thing in terms of the connection, and this is one thing you can do with everybody that you work with. So I'm going to say, Nicole, put your weight on one leg and pop a hip. Yeah, as if you're seeing some old friends. And put your thumbs in your jeans. Cool. There we go. So we're already a little bit more rooted. And this is arguably the most important part of working with people. Getting them dropped in, connected, and you seeing what's going on with them. All right, so I'm going to take another snap. Good, and eye of the tiger, beautiful. Can we get a little smile? Yes, nice, nice, nice. So I love working with Nicole because she's just totally natural and unforced. We get a really, really nice emotion from her kind of immediately. And if I were doing a shoot, somebody hired me, my shoots are 60 to 90 minutes, we would have a lot of time to play with a range of emotions. I'll share something. So I was an actor. I had the pleasure of studying with David Mamet at NYU back in the 80s, and the Atlantic Acting School and Theater Company grew out of that. And the method of working, there are these 3 steps, but the middle step is what the essence of the person is doing. And they also have, Stanislavski had something called a magic as if, so you would suggest something. So I just want to imagine, if you would all close your eyes for a second, and if you were working with me and we wanted to get something loving, very dropped in, very tapped, if I asked you all to think of a grandparent, living or dead, but if they're dead, not sad, who you adored, and maybe it's Booby, and imagine if they're not alive, you're reaching across time and you're hugging that grandparent and saying, I love you so much. And if you breathe into your belly button and you allow yourself, you allow me to guide you, it's going to take you to a place that's going to get some emotion. You all can open your eyes or you can enjoy saying hi to your boobies while you're here. So I'm going to ask Nicole, do you have a grandparent who you adore? Living or not?
Not living.
Not living, okay, but we want to think of this as joyful. I don't want her to be sad, right? So can you give me a first name?
His first name?
Yeah, whichever the great, yeah.
Clarence.
Clarence.
Yes.
So what I'd like you to breathe into your belly button, and I'd like you to imagine you're talking to Clarence and hugging him from the beyond. What I'd like you to say, just not very loud, is, Grandpa Clarence, I love you so much. So, yeah, and breathe into it. So, giggling from my acting training is a little bit of a defense, and the real emotion is just on the other side of that. You have to earn the trust of your subject if you want to go to places like that, like this. So, Clarence.
Clarence.
Yeah, good. And say, Clarence, I love you. I miss you and I love you.
Granddad, I love you so much.
Beautiful. Breathe. Yes. Nice. And down. with the chin a little, beautiful. And now let's imagine Clarence is saying, girl, I am with you always. I believe in you 1,000%, and I know you're going to get everything that you want. And now just say very gently, I love you.
Love you, Granddad.
Smile nice and easy. Beautiful. And now go, hey!
Hey.
Yes! So we break it up a little bit like that, end on something joyful. So I have no idea what we're getting here. Okay. So, maybe not a perfect headshot, but we're starting to approach getting some emotion. So I just wanted to introduce a little bit of that. So we're at 5:35. The next thing I'm going to do, as you see again, we had shadows and stuff. So I'm going to set up a reflector, and wherever I've put everything, over here and over here, and it takes me some time to do everything. And I'll be nestled in between, which is fine. And so the sandbag police, I'm very, very aware of this. Don't worry, I'm not going to knock over it. This is super solid. If I were on a set and I had a bunch of people, we'd have a C-stand, or I'd have stand on this, or I'd have an assistant just keeping a hand on it. That's what I do if I'm shooting out in the streets. If I'm using a light outside, I always have somebody with a hand on a light once it's up in the street. So I remember that I wanted to put this way when I set this up earlier, with these on the left side. And in this case, I want the leg towards me. The weight is not a big deal. I have a question.
So someone in the chat's asking, you have the white balance set to daylight. How do you decide what white balance without a calibration color card?
Well, I'm shooting raw, and a lot of people even shoot on auto with raw, but these lights are daylight white balanced, and so I set for daylight. And then what I'm looking at another question that's coming after that. And so afterwards, if I want to adjust it a bit because of the skin tone of the person I'm working with, or if I'm on my, this is about to go out, let me save it. Or if I'm working on my laptop and I get home and it's not quite calibrated as my desktop, let me take a photo. Boom, detecting the camera. Sorry, guys. So this is like my first time tethering and doing it live. So let's hope that comes on out. So basically, you're shooting in RAW. It's a reason to shoot RAW, and you can adjust it without damaging the image file at all. And you can, I will often photograph 20 or 30 people in a day. And so with the first image of each person, I can fine tune and adjust it the way I want to. I don't think so. Camera is on. Let's see what's going on. I took a photo before, like that. So maybe I'll just restart this. Okay, cool. He's one of the only people I would trust with my stuff. So yeah. So with each person, if I have 20 of them, I'll fine tune that white balance on the first image, and I'll just paste it on to the others. It's one of the great things. So I'm a Lightroom guy because that's where I started. Framing. So the question is, what's the framing rules for headshots? So generally, for actors, just above the head, there are plenty of photographers who like to cut in. It's really salt and pepper to taste. Do what works for you, but one really good piece of advice around that is ask your client what they want. When in doubt, shoot too wide so that you can crop in. For corporate stuff, cool, I'll move that up. For corporate stuff, frequently, I'll shoot horizontally and wide because they want a square crop for their LinkedIn or for their websites. And that gives plenty of room to do that. Let me just move this here, and there we go. Okay, for not being used to working on a laptop, I'm doing okay. Any other questions? Actually, okay, I'm gonna turn this around so I look less goofy. So this is a flash point. This is a reflector holder, and I love it because there's a ball head so that I can adjust it down and up, and also you can put it up and change it all around and all that kind of stuff.
They're asking what lens you're using.
Okay, so I'm shooting with a Canon R5, and I'm shooting with, and this is the part, let me see if I can walk and chew gum at the same time while I'm doing this. This goes on this side. So I'm shooting with the 85mm RF, the RF 85mm f2, which is the inexpensive 85mm, because when I got this camera, that's all I could afford at the time. It's a $600 lens. It's a cheap one. Would I like to have the whatever, 1.2, 1.4? Yeah, but I don't need it for the work that I do. If I start making a fortune, yeah, I want that. I want the 1.2, the 50mm, all of that. The first big one that I did invest in, the 135 f1.8 for the Canon RF, is just beautiful. And again, that's for outdoor, which is when you want that shallow depth of field. And with back button autofocus and eye detection, I can shoot somebody halfway down the block, full length, back button, it'll grab the eye, and everything else goes out. Beautiful, creamy. I love, love, love doing that. That answer the question? Cool. All right. Now, some other stuff that I do is I mark things so that I don't have to, anything that's repetitive. So this I got actually was brand new today. So I know exactly how long it needs to be. Oops, I actually did the wrong thing, but that's okay. That's the midpoint. So the extender part of this, I'm bringing out, and I marked it with some silver, a silver Sharpie, so I could see where I stop. And theoretically, this should be dead on for the size of the reflector that I'm using, which is a 40-inch reflector. Anything that's repeating, right? I moved this, I had it set to be perfectly centered, so I'm gonna move it back so it's pretty centered, like that. Because I told you, I'm a little bit controlling that way. And now all I have to do is remember where I put my reflector. This is an old Omega bag, but it's a great bag that I held on to. And I carry my 40-inch reflector in it. I can carry diffusion in the front of it like that. So the other thing I've marked for this, so I'm using a white umbrella and I'm going to match it with the silver for some pop. You know, silver is a little bit more contrasty, gives a little more pop indeed like that. I don't mind doing that. Also, because I'd marked this for where it attaches with a little bit of a silver Sharpie, right? So if you're shooting 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many times a week, you want some stuff automated. You don't want to not be thinking about it. You want to pay attention to what you're doing, but you want it, if it's a repetitive thing you do over and over again, you want it to be a little bit automated. Okay, and we're back. Thank you. Good. And this is pretty flat that way. So I'm going to bring this very close to Nicole for the bounce, and I'm going to adjust this. We're going to shoot it. I just always like to show the difference. That's the wrong one. Good. And this. So we're going to tip it like this first, so you can see the difference, and we're going to tip it the other way to see what happens. Exact same spot. And we'll see if we need to adjust the power output, because we're kind of adding light, right? With this. And let's get that over there, not pull anything out. I am good. Seth has got my back. 545. So weight on one leg, pop a hip. Good. Beautiful. If you see it, don't do anything to screw it up, right? We already have rapport. So let's see what this reflector does. Hopefully that's coming in. Yep. Does anybody see a difference? Do you see how we filled in under the chin there? All right, looks kind of nice. I love this look. Again, I have a little preset salt and pepper to taste. You may or may not like the vignette. I might lessen that vignette afterwards. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this so it's tipped back to see what happens. And again, mind you, 43-inch umbrella. That's all we're using. You could use, Westcott has an FJ200. It's about the size of a 7200 f4. And you could also probably do this with a speed light. You're just not going to have as fast recycle time or power or a longevity. I have very rarely, even on a long day, needed to, I never plug in. I have a second battery. This lasts forever. The triggers, forget about it. I can't run out with the trigger. I could shoot for a week without needing to replenish. So, hi Nicole, perfect, right? So we make sure that we're connected. Chin down a little for me. Yes, good. Good, 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 good. Isn't she great? Can we get a little round of applause for Nicole? So, and we're waiting to see what that adjustment does, and I should put my $3 glasses. So you see how much brighter that is? For me, it's salt and pepper to taste. It's just that these little adjustments make a difference. So I'm now just gonna level this out last thing I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna move the light position to get a little something different, right? So, but I could shoot this. So a lot of photographers might call this flat light. I call it even light, and I love it. And again, imagine if you're a casting director, you're looking at 20 headshots on a screen. Nicole's gonna pop out because she is bright, she's present, focused on the eyes there. And for the fellow or the gal who asked about the framing, this is how I would normally frame for an actor. We could crop in a little tighter from that if we wanted to, but I like this, so this kind of framing for Nicole. So Nicole's gonna pop a hip for me. So every time, yes, good. Now, you see, so step a little this way, beautiful, and then pop. So sometimes you're dead center and I ask you to pop a hip, now your head is over here. So I'm like, do that, pop the hip, good, right? Cool. Okay, I'm sorry you had to see that. Beautiful, and now if I get the smile, an organic smile, beautiful. See what we got there with this level? Last couple of shots. The other thing for me, you need to like people. The most difficult thing, there we go. So maybe a little overexposed. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. The most difficult thing as a headshot photographer, as with an actor, or even if it's a CEO, is getting an organic, unpushed smile. And you have to earn respect. You have to tell people not to push too much. And it's a process to get there. And again, mind you, I'd normally be spending 60 to 90 minutes with somebody. I think we're doing pretty good considering, actually, don't move. So I will see something, bring that chin a little down as if you're checking out, can I trust this person? Good. And we'll have a different look. So Nicole looks good, left, right, straight, anything, right? All right. So that's enough with flat, even light. I'm gonna make an adjustment now to the light position. How do we get something more dramatic in a small space like this, right? Well, funny you should ask. I'm gonna answer that momentarily. Okay, so that fell flat. I'm just gonna move this down like this and out of the way. And we might use this in an elevated. This is why I like this ball head, by the way. We can do that. No, this is a light stand.
Okay.
This is a Matthews reverse stand. I think they have them out. They have a whole table of my kit out there if you guys want to buy stuff. So tell them Charlie sent you.
That's a Matthews Mini Extendable Reverse Folding Stand, MERF, M-E-R-F.
Good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the light, but I'm not going to adjust the power at all. And because I'm moving the light closer, we're probably going to be way overexposed, but let's see what happens. And because I'm careful, because I don't have sandbags on here, I'm going to move this out of the way, zip this up.
We got a question in the chat.
Shoot.
Eric is asking, how do you obtain corporate clients?
Eric is asking, so this is a great, I'll tell you the short answer to this. The best thing I know to do is if you're a photographer wondering what to do, and if there are nonprofits and that you believe in what they do, I work with a couple. I work with an organization called Opening Act that brings theater to underserved public schools. I do free headshots once a year for 150 students. I came out for a weekend and I love doing it. I work with Wild Tomorrow. And so what will happen is if you're working with organizations like this, guess what? They have people on their board, and they're people who have big money jobs. They're also care about people because they're donating their time and their expertise to that. And you do some good work and you can't be pushy. You have to be consistent with work and somebody will start contacting you. One thing, I have a very basic card. It's white with black printing. I hand it out everywhere I go. I don't have my phone number on it, but I have my email address and I have my Instagram because you never know. I did a shoot, all right, Saturday. I have a little bit of time. I did a shoot a week ago Saturday downtown, Cortland Alley and in Tribeca with a great young actress. We had a great time. As we were walking from one location to the other, these two guys were walking towards us. And one guy says to the other, dude, you need a new LinkedIn profile shot. What are you doing? So we got a little like that. I said, guys, I'm your guy. The guy emailed me yesterday. I said, here's my Instagram. Look at my work if you like what I do. So it was a casual thing. It wasn't pushy. And we're going to have a consultation tomorrow on the phone. And he had just moved to New York, so whatever, he's got a big new job and stuff. So that's kind of how you have to feel ready. You have to be not pushy, but you have to put yourself out there. So I hope that answers it. All right, let's move this
Wait.
light.
You got one more.
Yep, go for it.
Tony's asking, how well will this setup work with someone with glasses?
How well? So angle of incidence, right? You've all heard about that. And so, Eric Bird, you're welcome. So basically, somebody with glasses, sometimes they're non-reflective. So there are 3 things I do to fine tune it. Have them push it all the way up, and then you want them to turtle and press down, and sometimes just so you can see the eyes, and sometimes that will do it combined with raising the light up and tipping it down. It's a game of inches. I'm not going to be doing that today, but it's absolutely doable. One thing is you can't use a reflector underneath because that will absolutely reflect unless they're special glasses, I think. I'm not sure. Answer your question? Cool. All right. Now, when you're working with anybody, whoever you are, a man or a woman, you have to be mindful of their personal space. And if you don't know them well and stuff like that, always treat with respect. You never touch anybody. If you want hair moved, you ask them, can you do it? If you're lucky, you work with a stylist on the set who will do it. So we've worked together once. We have rapport, but I would not any way, shape, or form touch Nicole at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell her is, Nicole, could you step to the side? I'm going to get in your personal space because I want to look at the light position, but I'm going to communicate that at all times, right? So I'm going to move this a little bit closer and a little bit more feathered. Nicole, would you stand back where you were standing? So we're going to see if we're about 45, 45. And we're kind of feathered. This edge is at her. And these will be tweaks that you can make if you have one light, tight space, how much light will be on the background or not. And now, though, that we have light on the side, we'll be able to move back away and we'll be able to darken the background. But I want to see, good, we're back up. And I got to get that out of the way. And I do that over here. And boom, good. So this should be way too bright. So pop a hip, weight on one leg. How you doing? Good. And again, I've got back button autofocus and it goes right to the eye. And this should be quite overexposed. So, drum roll, please. And guess what it is? Very, very overexposed. We have a little bit of shadow on the left side. We have a lot of light on the background, which I don't like that. I don't want that much light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move everything out towards me, and I'm going to reduce the power on the light. So Nicole, would you take one giant step forward? Good. And then I'm going to guesstimate and bring this back, and I'm going to feather it even a little bit more. And we're going to see what that does to the background. And I'm also going to, I'm awful at guesstimating this, but I'm going to bring my light down one stop from 6 to 5 and see what happens with that. And again, if I were working with a light meter, Ian, I know you would get this locked in, but this is what I'm doing. So that's great. Nicole's already dropped in for me, and I'm having her stay looking straight at me. You can have your model, your person, look towards the light as well for catch lights, but let's see what we get in terms of contrast here. Come on now. Whoosh. 2 guys walk into a bar. So that's a little bit better, right? We've darkened that background a bit. I think the exposure is pretty good on Nicole, and this looks much better on the monitor up there than it does on my monitor here. So what I could do, and actually I like the catch light in the corner like that. We don't quite have Rembrandt lighting, but we do have that triangle underneath. So now we've got this is a little bit of a more dramatic look. And let me see if I can get this. I'm not going to do the compare side by side, but here's, so here's with the light behind me and the reflector underneath. And here's something a little bit more dramatic. Now, if you can imagine, if you have different color backdrops, or when I'm working at home, I love the collapsible backdrops I have with texture, brown, stuff like that. And by the way, on my Instagram, which is Charles Chessler Photography, you'll see a much more diverse amount of work, whether it's outdoor work with light, without added light, indoor work, dramatic stuff like this. Again, in my mind, the purpose of today was to really help people get going with the basics and that you can carry this stuff with you. So let's say we like this exposure, but we want a little less shadowing. So we can bring our reflector back in. And the amount that we fill in, and I'm sorry I'll be blocking Nicole for this, the amount we fill in will depend on the proximity of the reflector to your subject. So bring this up here. Good. Like that, a little bit higher. And we're going to show you also different positioning. So here's the direction of the light, and I can see with the modeling light that it's definitely hitting right there. And we're going to see how that fills in, and then we're going to adjust the angle of it to see how that affects it as well. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Charles.
What's up? Good. Chin a little down for me. Beautiful. Bam. I think my phrase that I will say till my dying day is chin a little down, please. That's for most people. Also, Nicole is she's got angles. She doesn't really have to worry about turtling in a little bit. So if we look at the difference, we got that with the shadow, and this is up to you. You salt and pepper to taste, right? And then we've got a little bit almost like a separation light, a little bit on the cheek. Maybe it's a little too much. So I'm going to do one last thing, I think, and then we'll open it up for questions. I'm going to move this around like this, pretty tight. And we're going to see what that does. Okay. Back in the high life again. People put up with my bad singing, and then I get a nice smile like that when I know them. I wouldn't be doing that with the CEO, or I might if, you know. So let's see what we got there, just with that change of the reflector. And drum roll, please. Is that not in? Was that it? No, that was not it, right? This is it. There we go. Oh yeah, that's the first one. Yep. With a little bit of light on the cheek, on the camera left cheek. And you see the difference, how much that fills in. So this is one light using a reflector, not using a reflector to have more or less shadows. I'm gonna, fewer shadows. It's a countable number, right? So I remember that from English. First of all, can we get a round of applause for Nicole? Because we're done shooting. Nicole, what's your Instagram if people want to find you?
Yes, my Instagram's Nicole C. Stewart with 2 T's. And yeah.
Nicole C. Stewart with 2 T's. Young, talented actress. If you're in the theater, hire her.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. So I'm not going to start packing up. I just want to make myself kind of present, turn my cap around, which looks better, and ask if there are any questions in the audience or any other questions online. No questions. Okay. Dare I ask, did anybody learn anything today?
I did.
Cool. Great. My hope is that it would be useful even for advanced shooters. So no questions. So I'm going to take a moment to do a little shameless promotion for me then. On the feed will be my Instagram, Charles Chessler Photography. I do small group workshops, 5 people max, whether it's studio stuff or my favorite thing, I do outdoor on the 18th. I have 2 spots left. We do outdoor with natural light, and then we bring a strobe and we look for pockets of light and we work in the moment. I also am the photographer teacher for trips to South Africa with Wild Tomorrow. It's a dream come true for me because we're actually feeding children. We're saving rhinos. I pinch myself because when I was a kid growing up, I never thought it'd be something I'd be able to do in person. So the next trip that we're hoping to put together, I've been 4 times, is probably the fall of 2026. And then the last thing, I'm going to have actually a show on June 3rd. My buddy Peter Rinaldi, thank you for making that happen, on the Upper West Side. And I'm going to have showing work from both Agreeable Strangers and from South Africa. And plus, we're going to have about 10 11 by 14 prints that we're going to be raffling off, $10 raffle tickets. And all of the money that comes from that is going to go to either opening act. We're going to split between opening act, that organization that brings theater to underserved public schools, and Wild Tomorrow. So it's not a benefit for me. But also there will be a link. I'm getting my newsletter going again. So if you saw yesterday, there was a book publishing thing. So thrilling for me is I'm having my first book done, which is about Agreeable Strangers, a project I've been doing for 14 years. Near and dear to my heart, personal project. And so through the newsletter, I will announce there will be a 2-week window of a pre-sale. So I'm obviously trying to reach as many people as possible. So if you wish, you can sign up. There'll be a link in my bio on Instagram. Any other? EJ Orb, how are you, buddy? Thank you. Hi, Ryan. Thank you very much. Vic Romaine, dude, saving rhinos is so dope. You go, it will change your life. The first time I went, I was this close because the rhino is sedated to remove the horn. And I was sobbing inside, and I had to control myself so I could take photos. I was shooting very close and wide for impact. It's a beautiful thing. And whomever else, I will get online and answer and say thank you to as many people. We have a question in the audience.
Do you prefer to use a prime lens for portraits or a telephoto?
So it's a great actually question that right now. So I'm very much a prime. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the question is, do I prefer to use a prime lens or a zoom, a telephoto? A lot of people use a 70 to 200. So 85 millimeter is my focal length of choice. When I do my Agreeable Strangers project, though, I approach people and I'm close enough, I can hold a reflector, and one hand I use a 50 millimeter. And I brought a 50 millimeter lens today, so if you're even in a tighter space, you could shoot with a 50 millimeter. If you're not too close, I really don't see distortion. People worry about that, but I'm a prime guy. But for event work, I'm saving up. I'm going to be getting, so the RF, it's a 24 to 105 f4 I'm going to get, so that shooting step and repeats in and out. I don't want the weight of the 2.8, although that extra stop, twice the light, one stop, would be great, but just can't do it. And I don't care if my ISOs go up to 1600, 3200. Nobody cares except other photographers who are pixel peeping on websites where they never ever meet you in person. One more question.
Use any filters at all?
So the question is, do I use any filters? I don't. I've used years ago, I started out doing bird photography, which is why I get to go and help people in South Africa. And I did some landscape stuff, and I did use circular polarizer, and it looks great when the sun's coming from the side, but I'm not doing that. So unbelievably to me, have a career as a portrait and headshot photographer that I started making my full-time living 6 years ago. It consumes all of my time. And I just missed migration, and I want to go into the park. I haven't gone. I've been posting photos from 10 and 15 years ago. I was in the park every day doing that. So yeah, thank you for the question. Anything else? Anything online? Seth, we good? 6:01, 1 hour, not bad, huh?
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.